It's seriously been raining for the past 2 hours, and I pull in to get a sausage breakfast sandwich, and now the sun comes out right on my face, illuminating my sparkly personality. In this video, I am offering a new tag of sorts in which I discuss Divination 2024, a trajectory of practice. Let's do it. Welcome to my first video of December 2023 that I am filming on the 27th of the month. I've been very absent on my channel, but it's been a necessary absence. November ended up being a really busy month, kind of out of nowhere. It's usually not much going on as a whole. And so I had stuff happening in November, and then I spent the end of the month and the first week of December with COVID and recovering from that. My son had it as well. It was our first time for both of us. So that was a thing, and I'm feeling pretty good right now. My taste and smell did go. It left me completely, and then it came back, but it was really odd. Like anything with culture, like yogurt or cheese, smelled like bleach. And my tea, my favorite everyday black tea, smelled the same, floral and lovely. But when I drank it, it tasted like I had dirt in my mouth. And it made me so sad because it smelled so good. While I was sick, the only thing that really tasted normal, like as an everyday thing, was coffee. Praise be. But then when I tested negative and I started recovering, my taste for coffee left. I couldn't taste it at all. I can taste it now, but it's so weird. It's so weird how it messes with your senses like that. My symptoms as a whole were pretty mild. I didn't even think I had COVID until my taste and smell went. But like I had RSV in January and that was way worse. But I could still taste and smell. So I hope to not lose my taste and smell like that. That was not ever again. That wasn't pleasant at all. Anyway, that was a very long-winded way of saying that I have not posted anything in a while, not since my 1,000 subscriber video. I'm on the other side of the drive-thru now, so now it's really dark and I'm totally washed out. Oh, hey, hi. Maybe I'll just lean forward. This is just gonna be a really awkward intro. I'll just make that final right now. I don't think there's any hope until I move. I'll just go ahead and keep talking, and you can avert your eyes if my pasty face offends them. Where was I? Oh yeah, sick at the end of November, beginning of December. So that was a thing, and even after I recovered, I was still tired, like for days and days and days. And so I just had no energy to really do anything other than get myself back to work. I missed 3 days of work in a row. I cannot remember the last time I missed that much work in one go. And I hate being gone because in education, it is so much more work to be gone than it is to be there. It's just so much easier to be there. So another thing that happened was my phone took one too many drops out of my pocket at school and the screen cracked right by the power button and volume buttons, and everything functionally works okay, but my touch screen is really wonky, and I film and edit everything. All my content that I make for this channel I do with my phone. It's all mobile, and so I haven't been able to edit anything without the screen like jumping all over the place. It's because the touchscreen's weird. So I'm actually on my way right now to get that fixed. I'm driving 2 hours to get my phone fixed rather than have it sent in. Moving. Oh, that's better. This place is busy today, which is good. Business is good for them, which makes me happy. So got sick, broken phone, no energy, all the things. This has taken me a really long time to just basically sum it up. Maybe now I'll finally get to the actual premise of this video, which is the contemplation of divination practice for next year, 2024. I'm taking this in kind of a very sweet and simple direction, in that I'm not setting goals for my practice at all. I'm not setting goals, and I'm not putting my practice on a schedule. So like anything time based, like with the exception of like my seasonal readings and things like that, I won't be putting anything on a schedule. I really, 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 really want to simplify like literally everything in my life next year. Just streamline all the things. So when I do engage in a practice, I can potentially have a more meaningful experience, if that makes sense. Sorry, moved again. My phone's fixed and it looks so good. I have no crack on the screen and no horizontal backlight line blaring at my face. So that's great. Anyway, I was talking about wanting to keep my practice simple in 2024. I have things that I want to carry over to continue to do that I have been doing. There are a few things maybe that I'm considering dabbling in a little bit, but I'm not making any commitment to any of it. I'm just not. I'm finding that the more open and spontaneous and low key that I keep my practice, the more meaningful it is. And that's kind of where I'm at with life in general, if I'm honest. Just simplicity is good. So a few practices that I will continue to engage in 2024. Cards are not going anywhere. If anything, though, as far as potential patterns or trends, I have a feeling that 2024 might be a year of less tarot and more oracle. Oracle was a thing for me this year, kind of in a way that, multiple ways actually, that I didn't anticipate. It just kind of evolved to where I was using oracle a lot more than tarot. I have a feeling that will probably continue, at least for a little while. And I did dabble some more in Lenormand this year, and I probably will continue to do that next year as well. So cards aren't going anywhere. What else? Cledons, working with cledons. The very first type of divination I ever remember doing as a child. But I didn't know what it was at the time. I made a whole video about working with cledons. I'll try to remember to link it in the description box. Cledons, working with cledons, omens, signs, things you hear, see, observe. It's a very easy divination to engage in. It doesn't require any tools. That's another thing. Engaging in practices that are more nature-based and using items that are in my immediate environment. That's another thing. That I think I'm going to increase next year. So cledons, working with cledons, cledonomancy. I don't know how to pronounce that. Working with cledons, that's what I call it. Another practice I'll be carrying over is the use of a pendulum. I started practicing with a pendulum about 2 years ago, and it's a practice that works well for me. I've noticed that the pendulum responds to me and my body pretty well. And the biggest thing is consistency, just making sure that you are, whatever pendulum you're using, just keeping things consistent as far as what's a yes, what's a no, or what's in between, if you ascribe to that. So yeah, using a pendulum, that's probably something I'm going to do a little bit more. So pendulum will carry over, as will bibliomancy. Bibliomancy has been a thing for a very long time as well. It's an older divination practice of mine that I didn't know what it was, when I was much younger, that I engaged in. So bibliomancy will be a thing. I have some books that are kind of favorites for that I will probably continue to use. What else? Geomancy. Geomancy is one of those things that I kind of went down the rabbit hole in really hard for about 6 weeks. I have sticks, geomancy sticks. Can't remember if that's what they're called. And I have some resources for geomancy, so that may or may not continue, but it might, just because I have all the stuff for it. Automatic writing, I don't know. I don't know if I do automatic writing in the same way as other people do, as far as like for mediumship purposes. That's not really how I engage with automatic writing, I suppose, but I don't consider myself a medium, and I don't practice mediumship at this time. So I don't know. Automatic writing for me is just like straight up channeling, not necessarily from any specific thing, just whatever wants to come out will come out, and that's just kind of how I engage with that. It's like stream of consciousness, but just very, very like rapid, fast paced, no stopping to think about things. Yeah, that's a practice I do that will most likely continue because I have lots of notebooks and pens. So yeah, cards, cledons, pendulum, bibliomancy, automatic writing, geomancy. Those are things I already do that will most likely carry over. Some may not. I don't know. Like I said, things can change on a dime, and this is just a trajectory as of now. It's like when I read cards, I'm always approaching it from this point in time now, based on what's happening now, what will, and so on and so forth. So that's kind of how I'm approaching this. Practices I'm considering dabbling in. This is kind of related to the pendulum, because pendulum is technically like a form of dowsing. I might try my hand with divining rods. I've never done it, but they intrigue me a lot. I do not have divining rods, and I do not know how expensive they are. They're probably expensive, but if they are, I might put that off a little bit. Divining rods are very interesting to me. Dowsing as a whole is kind of intriguing me, has been for a while. So that's a thing that I might try. Another practice for consideration, tasseography, tea leaf reading. One would think that with the amount of tea, loose leaf tea, that I consume on a daily basis, that I might have even considered giving this practice a go. I have not. So, and I have tea leaves. There are interpretation materials online. I probably wouldn't have to buy anything, or if I did, it probably wouldn't be much. And I have lots of tea leaves. I have enough tea leaves to last me probably a couple of lifetimes at this point. So we're good in that department. So tasseography, tea leaf reading, that's another up for consideration. It just involves learning a new system, and I don't know how gung-ho I am for learning a whole new system of things, but we'll see. Like I said, I'm not committing. This one's been calling me hard, and that is charm casting, or lots, or sortilege, kind of in general. And I'm talking charm casting, like not with charms that I go to a store and buy, but charms that I find myself that are already in my home or in my workplace or in my environment, or just random things that I find or things that are gifted to me. And I'm thinking next year, if I dabble in this at all, it will be less about the casting and more about building a kit. I'm feeling that's kind of where this is going. If I do engage with this practice, it will be more about finding items for a kit and assigning meaning and really making it personal to me. And I think that would be a really, really fun practice to engage with next year sometime. I don't know. But like I said, as of now, this is where I'm at. So charm casting. Another practice is scrying. Scrying is technically something that I have done before, but never like seriously with intention. Like I've mentioned before that I love scrying in rain puddles. We have an abundance of those here, as you might be able to hear. It's raining now. The sun went away and it's raining now. But yeah, I've never deliberately sat down to scry in a mirror or in like a bowl of water. But I guess technically I have scried in rain puddles. So scrying is something I might consider trying a little bit more intentionally. Because again, you really don't need much. So that's another one. And this one might be a little obscure. But it's something that technically I have also kind of done in my own way, I guess, and I didn't know it had a name. There's a mancy for all your fancies out there. There really there is. And this one, if I'm pronouncing it correctly, is nephelomancy. Nephelo mancy. And that is divination by means of the movements and shapes of clouds. Cloud divination. Who would have thought it had an actual name? It certainly has a name. Nephelomancy or nephelomancy. I like nephelomancy. That sounds kind of cool. So, yeah, I mean, as a kid, I'm sure a lot of us, even as an adult, have, we remember times where we've looked at clouds and be like, hey, that looks like such and such. I wonder if that has meaning, but then probably never really gave it much thought. But I think it's an interesting practice. Again, nature-based, observable in the natural world, and that's really kind of where I'm leaning at the moment, where things are observable in my environment and in nature. And those practices lately have been, now I won't say they've been more or less meaningful than cards or practices with tools, but they offer something a little different, and I think it's worth exploring a lot more. So those are practices I'm considering bringing. Oh, I got one more, technically. I got one more. We're not done. And that is the I Ching. Okay. I have been working with hexagrams for about 4 years, but not in the framework of the I Ching, which might sound weird, but I promise I'm going somewhere. I've been working with hexagrams in the context of human design, because the I Ching is very important in human design. And those traditional hexagram interpretations and meanings do carry over to human design to an extent, but then a lot of it actually kind of gets lost. And so I would kind of like to approach the hexagrams like from the actual perspective of the I Ching, and actually cast with coins and pay attention to the changing lines, and, really just engage with the hexagrams as they were originally intended to be engaged with as a system, with the system of I Ching. So, okay, that's it and I do have resources for that, so I really wouldn't have to bring anything in with that. So, practices for consideration for 2024: dowsing / divining rods, tasseography, charm casting, scrying, nephelomancy or cloud divination, and the I Ching. I may not do any of these. I may do all of these. I may just pick one and decide you complete me, or, anywhere in between. So I've done kind of my carryovers or continuing practices. I'm going to continue practices I'm considering. And now I have a few practices, I'm calling them kind of adjacent support practices, where they're not exactly divination, but they support the practice, if that makes sense. And most of these I already engage with to an extent, but some I want to amp up a little bit just because they're good for me. I know they're good for me. And I've been not slacking, that's not the right word. I just haven't been as intentional with these supports. So first, adjacent practice number 1 is pranayama and breath work. I've discovered the long exhale breathing technique this year, and I don't know if I could have gotten through my summer without that, because it's amazing for anxiety. It's essentially your exhale is longer than your inhale, and it's very intentional and deliberate. And there's videos and stuff about it online. So breath work has been very important to me this year. So I will continue that. Support practice number 2, they're what I call splenic sessions. So that refers to my authority in human design. I have splenic authority, very spontaneous and based in the now. And every once in a while, I will just get in the car and drive with nowhere to go. But I just really quickly, instinctually let my splenic awareness tell me where to go. And, just things like that, where you just go without a destination and see what your body tells you to do. That practice is really meaningful, and I haven't really engaged with it intentionally in a while. So splenic sessions are another support practice that I want to amp up a little bit. Adjacent support practice number 3, fasting. Oh, my fasting practice I've neglected it severely this year. It's good for me. My body likes it. And I feel better when I do it. And I really haven't done fasting in the way that I know I can. And it's good for me. I really haven't done much of it this year. And I would like to bring fasting back in a meaningful way. So that's probably priority number 1 if I had to put a priority on these. I'm really not, but that's the one I feel I can get the most out of, maybe besides the breath work. Next support practice, meditation and altered states of consciousness. Meditation is something that I've engaged with for years and years. Different types, different forms, different styles of meditation. Just meditation as a concept and as a practice. I've been involved in that for quite some time. This year, I've really developed an interest in brainwave states and altered states of consciousness. And that is something I'm looking into a little bit more as far as various practices to engage with that. I mean, there are the obvious ones. You can drink alcohol. You could do recreational drugs, which I do not do. I do drink on occasion, but I do not do recreational drugs. Plant medicines like ayahuasca, things like that. I don't think I'm going to do that anytime soon, but I do think it's interesting. Breath work could also be brought in here with things like the Wim Hof method that can be used. You can use your breathing to put yourself into an altered state of consciousness. And kind of going along with this is what I call trance dance. I don't know if that's actually a thing, but it's getting into trance by means of dance or physical movement. That's actually very easy for me to do. Using sound, I've done a lot of research and reading on sound this year, and ways to bring that in that can support you getting into an altered state of consciousness. It's really quite fascinating. So yeah, trance dance, another one. And last but not least, this is something I already do, of course, and that's journaling. My journaling in 2023 was a lot less frequent than in previous years, but when I did do it, it was longer sessions, more intense. In a way, I think it might have been a bit more meaningful in many ways than like the daily you sit down because you feel like you have to journal every day, but you really don't know if you have anything to say, or intuitively it just doesn't feel like a good time, or whatever. But so I'm going to see how. I think 2024 will be an interesting year for journaling for me, because I think it could take me to some very interesting places. But going back to the meditation, I'm considering doing a 10-day Vipassana retreat. There is one in my state. It's a few hours away from home. There's one in the summer. I would be off of school at that time, but essentially you go and it's a sort of a vow of silence. You don't speak. You're up early. You're eating I think it's like a strictly plant-based diet. for the entire time, and you're just engaging in meditation for like the entire 10 days. And I think that's a challenge. That would be a challenge, but it's something I'm looking into. So we'll see what happens with that. It's on my calendar for next year of just things to keep in mind. So adjacent practices: pranayama / breathwork, splenic sessions, fasting, meditation, brainwave states, trance dance, journaling. Oh, we're going to backtrack really quickly because I forgot one for consideration. It was in fine print because I ran out of room and I forgot. Runes. But not just runes in general, but very specifically Anglo-Saxon runes. I'm not object to learning the Norse runes like the Elder Futhark. Not object to that at all, but I dove deep down, and when I say deep, I mean deep. At the just before autumn, very end of summer, I jumped down the Wicca rabbit hole so far. I didn't know how long it was going to take for me to find my way out of it. And it surprised me, like, really genuinely surprised me, just because I was like so intuitively drawn to learning about Wicca. I didn't understand. I didn't know why, because I basically knew a lot about kind of the basics before, and it never appealed to me. But all of a sudden, end of summer, it was like, you need to learn about Wicca. Go read. And so I did. I bought a couple of books. I don't think I watched all of Thorn Mooney's channel, but probably pretty close. If you don't know Thorn and you are interested in Wicca in any way, shape, or form, even if you're not, she's just so smart and she's so down to earth. She's a traditional Gardnerian, and she's so knowledgeable, and she just makes great content. She's written a couple of books. She has another one in the works, I think, but she's a Llewellyn published author. But yeah, Thorn Mooney, she's great. Go check her out. But yeah, I watched a lot of her content, like a ton. When I was at the point where I was learning the basics about various traditions, I came across Raymond Buckland and his tradition of Seax Wicca, Seax Wicca, with a single C, Wica. Seax Wicca is very heavily influenced by Anglo-Saxon culture. Their primary deities are Anglo-Saxon. Anglo-Saxon culture and lore feature heavily into that tradition. And when I got to that point, I kind of understood why I was supposed to look at Wicca, is because I was supposed to find Seax Wicca, not for necessarily for Seax Wicca, but to discover Anglo-Saxon culture and history. They have their own set of runes, their own runic alphabet. There is not as much information on Anglo-Saxon runes as there are with Elder Futhark. There just isn't. But oh, Diane, Magical Haven, if you happen to watch this, will you comment in below the name of the resource? You told me about it once. I did not write it down, which was very silly of me. But you mentioned a resource for Anglo-Saxon runes. If you see this, would you please comment and tell me what that is? Again, so I have a record of it, and I promise this time I'll write it down. Okay, that was really it. I wanted to squeeze that in because it was really important. So Anglo-Saxon runes. If I do engage with that next year, it's probably going to be one of those things that's very long term, just because of how I kind of fell into it and the way that all went about. And I just feel that's kind of meant to be with me for a little while. So yeah, that was very long-winded and rambly and very unorganized and all over the place. Can you tell I have not done this for a while? I'm going to get back into the video swing of things, especially now that my phone is fixed and I'm determined to keep it that way. I do need a new screen protector, like yesterday. So I will work on that. I have a few more end of the year type things that I want to do. I really want to do the 10 forever cards that Nova Luna did. I was tagged in that video and I haven't done that yet. I totally intend to do that video. hopefully pretty soon. If not at the end of the year, then maybe the first week of January. I do have a 2024 Techo Kaigi that I want to do, my planner video. I really want to do that. I haven't done a planner video in a while. I do want to do that and a couple of other things. I also want to do Juli Standout Decks 2023. I did last year's 2022. It was a great tag. I had a lot of fun making that one. And I would like to do 2023's version as well. So, yeah, that's what I've had going on. That's where my divination practice kind of stands and potentially is going. Like I said, messy, unorganized, just like me. But that's okay. But because I've had a really weird year, kind of overall. There were a lot of high highs and a lot of really low lows. There wasn't not a lot of in between. It was a year kind of extremes for me, and I kind of anticipated that would be the case just because of what I've had going on. I'm looking forward to next year and deepening skills and learning new ones and just trying to have some balance and keeping things simple and not so focused on bringing things in. And that's across the board in my life in general. And I have another video planned related to that I intend to do pretty soon. So yeah. I'm making this a tag because I'm interested in hearing about others' trajectory of practice based on where they are now, what they've experienced this year, and potentially what they see going forward, at least in the short term of 2024. So if you feel inclined to talk about your divination practice in that way, please do a response. I would love to see it, and use the tag divination 2024 and tag me so I know you made a video and I can watch it, because I'm nosy and I like to know what other people do because it's fun. So, okay, I'm done. I am like 3 hours away from home and it's getting dark and I really just want to go home now. So I'm going to work on doing that. So, okay, until my next video, take care. Be well.